Hello! Bungie has given us a preview of Arc 3.0 before the launch of the season. You've likely seen some information already. I did not have time to make a video on the day of the release, but because I got some extra time to read, I can actually give some opinions on this pre-release information instead of just vomiting up the Bungie update word for word like I was going to. I'll spare you some of the Bungie preamble and just get right to it. Let's start with keywords. Amplify or amplified is one of the main keywords for Arc 3.0. When you are amplified, you gain increased movement speed and handling speeds for your weapons, along with being able to perform longer slides. Also, after sprinting for a few seconds, as long as you're amplified, you gain another boost of speed as fast as Bungie can make their sprint animation apparently. You gain a sizable PvE damage resistance buff, and you get an even longer slide. If amplified falls off of your buff timers, as long as you're still sprinting, you will retain this speed booster effect. In order to gain amplified, all you need to do is rapidly defeat targets with any arc damage. The number of targets, though, is currently unknown. Aspects and fragments will also grant more ways to become amplified. We do not know the duration of amplified. If I were to guess, I would say around 10 to 15 seconds. This means that already good weapons like Risk Runner, Trinity Ghoul, Salvager Salvo, Dead Messenger, Forbearance, etc. are going to continue to dominate in an Arc 3.0 world. Some other weapons to keep an eye on are Plug 1, as long as you have one already, Trespasser, Symmetry, Coldheart, Grand Overture, Thunderlord, Anarchy, and then any solid Arc primaries, Insidious from the Raid, Sweet Sorrow, stuff like that. Keep an extra eye on special weapons. We'll talk about why later. Next, we have some debuffs, Blind and Jolt. Blind works basically the way that it does right now, not too much is changing there. Jolt is a debuff applied to an enemy, and when you damage that enemy, they will send out chain lightning to other nearby enemies. The most important thing to take away from this is that being amplified does not directly lead to being able to blind or jolt enemies. There are some aspects and fragments that can lead to these effects proccing while amplified, but at base, being amplified does not automatically mean that you jolt or blind targets by doing something. You will need an aspect or a fragment to make that happen. Arc 3.0 is also taking ionic traces from Warlocks and just giving it to everybody. They give you ability energy when they are picked up. Hunters, we're going to start with you. Arc Staff is returning. Deflect is being built into Arc Staff, which is calling for a lot of people asking for some reworks to some exotics. But you're also getting a new super called Gathering Storm. You yeet your staff at the ground or an enemy. It does a big attack that jolts nearby targets, and then lightning will strike your staff, creating an AoE effect for a short time, while also sending out lightning towards any enemies that come near. The effect is perhaps reminiscent of the Fanatic's lightning attack, but it's not going to work exactly like it. If Bungie had not given Hunters a new super for Arc, it would have been one of the biggest missed opportunities in the history of the game. This super sounds pretty cool, and it's hopefully going to freshen up the Arc experience for Hunters even more. When it comes to melee attacks for Hunters, both Combination Blow and Disorienting Blow will be returning. Combination Blow works the way it does right now, but it's also getting Combat Flow's effect built in. Melee kills recharge your dodge, while Disorienting Blow amplifies Hunters on hit now as well. Your aspects are the following. Tempest Strike, which is from Middle Tree, not too surprising there. The wave from the attack will jolt enemies. Flow State, killing a jolted enemy amplifies you, and then while amplified, your dodge recharges faster, makes you more resistant to damage, and you have faster reloads. And then we have Lethal Current. After dodging, your melee lunge range is increased, and your next melee jolts the target and creates a damaging lightning aftershock. If you're in your Arc Staff super, after dodging, your next light attack hits twice. Also, hitting a jolted enemy with a melee attack will blind them. Arc Hunters, you're also getting Blink, and Blink is getting a buff. Since this is a lot of information, I'm going to do my first impressions on each class as we cover their subclass, as opposed to saving everything for the end so that our brains don't explode. So Tempest Strike being an aspect doesn't surprise me at all. Pretty much called that one in my Arc 3.0 video. It had basically everything you would want in an aspect already built into that entire branch, so that shouldn't be surprising. Then we have Flow State and Lethal Current, which are probably going to be combined pretty frequently as they combo into each other. Combination Blow Melee gives your dodge back on melee kill, so then you dodge for another melee. You dodge with Lethal Current as your aspect, now your next melee will jolt the target. Then if you hit the jolted target again with a melee, they're blinded. If you kill that jolted target, you become amplified from Flow State, which makes your dodge recharge faster and makes you more resistant to damage, and you get faster reloads. The dodge recharge rate seems redundant, but keep in mind that you only get your dodge back when you kill with your melee, so that increased rate might help in endgame content. Throw on Liar's Handshake to bolster this build even more. Very melee heavy as a Liar's Handshake build is perhaps right now. Hunters, I think, are going to experience a similar feeling that Solar Titans do in Roaring Flames and Soul Invictus as your aspects with Lethal Current and Flow State. Roaring and Soul Invictus just go well together. You don't have to do anything special, they just work together. If you want to throw Consecration into the mix, you gotta get a little more creative with your Solar Titan build. And that's exactly how I feel about Tempest Strike with Hunter right now. It literally feels like the exact same situation, down to the uppercut nature of the attacks. So we're gonna see where this ends up in some Hunter builds. People might need to get a little more creative to make any sort of a Tempest Strike build work out. Titans also have a melee that is the entire point of one of the strongest builds in the game, and going to Consecration doesn't really help that. So that's another reason why you don't really see Consecration too often, but that's neither here nor there. Warlocks, let's chat about you. You are retaining Chaos Reach and Storm Trance. I thought Storm Trance was going to get either Ionic Blink or Landfall. Y'all ended up getting both, which I think is very good, probably not going to be a huge problem. 2 melees, Chain Lightning and Ball Lightning from top and middle tree. Chain Lightning will jolt the main target, and Ball Lightning pretty much works the same way. Doesn't sound too exciting, but Warlocks gain boosts from being amplified. Chain Lightning chains to 2 targets instead of 1 and can bounce to even more enemies, and Ball Lightning will zap enemies 3 times instead of once. Your aspects are as follows. Arc Soul, basically the same effect that it has right now, but when you're amplified, your Arc Soul is supercharged, giving it a faster rate of fire. Lightning Surge is where you activate your melee while sliding to turn into a ball of lightning, teleport forward, and then create a lightning strike where you exit that jolts targets hit. And then we have Electrostatic Mind, arc ability kills, and kills on arc debuffed targets create ionic traces. You gain amplified when you collect any ionic trace. With these aspects, nothing immediately came to mind on first read, but after some review, Lightning Surge and Electrostatic Mind seem like they'll play nicely together as a very aggressive build, especially when combined with Crown of Tempest in low and mid-level content. Lightning ball yourself forward, hit a bunch of stuff, make some traces, do it all over again. When it comes to endgame viability though, I remain skeptical. I think Arc Soul is going to be more favored in endgame. It's a lot safer if people end up using Arc. I think after some of the pizzazz of Lightning Surge, Warlocks feel a bit tame, but that's solely based on these descriptions only. And I will say that Warlocks felt like their Arc branches were not too terribly synergized when it came to that synergy already. It's just that when compared to Void and Solar 3.0, it's like, why bother using Arc at this point? Hunter has a similar feeling, but they're getting really dialed in and they get a new super, so it doesn't feel exactly the same. Titans seem to be a bit more PvP focused than the other two. Bungie says the ultimate goal of Titan is to punch something in the face by any means necessary, and you're going to see that in 2 of the 3 aspects. Fist of Havoc and Thunder Crash remain as the supers. Fist of Havoc will be getting the AoE damaging field, but not Trample, which extends the duration of the super. Having that baseline might have been a bit much, so I'm not too surprised by that, and it also gives some room for maybe Eternal Warrior to get a much needed buff, wink wink nudge nudge, if Bungie wanted to do that. Titans are getting a new class ability, Thruster. By double tapping the button while on the ground, or whatever your bind is, you do a quick evade move with a distance covered that is about equal to what a hunter would cover when they dodge. I'm guessing this cooldown is going to be around where a barricade is normally, around maybe 30-40 seconds, but I could also see it being much higher, especially if the cooldown is brought down by resilience, which basically everyone is stacking right now because resilience is amazing. To everyone who harassed Tocom on Twitter, one of the devs, about Twilight Garrison not coming back, I hope you feel even worse now. You don't deserve this ability. Anyway, for melee attacks, Seismic Strike and Ballistic Slam are going to be your melees. Seismic Strike now blinds, and while amplified, increases the radius of the blind, and the blind lasts longer. Ballistic Slam looks unchanged. Titans are getting a new melee attack called Thunderclap. Hold down the melee button for a quick punch, or hold it even longer to build up its power. It can only be charged on the ground, and you cannot store the charged state. You can one-shot with this attack in PvP if you can charge it high enough, but the cost is having to not move in PvP for like a while. I don't know if you can cancel the charge halfway through in order to save the cooldown. You're not going to save the charge, but I'm wondering if you can save the cooldown. Your aspects are as follows. Touch of Thunder buffs your Flashbang, Pulse, Lightning, or Storm Grenade in order to do an additional effect. Flashbang gets an extra blinding impulse. Pulse creates an ionic trace and increases its damage over time. Lightning Grenade jolts targets on the initial blast, and you get another one. And Storm creates a roaming thundercloud, similar in nature to the tornado from Stasis Hunter, which is pretty neat. Paging the D1 is better than D2 crowd, Juggernaut is back. While sprinting with full class ability energy, you gain a frontal shield that blocks damage and is stronger when amplified. Note that this is not an overshield type effect, at least it wasn't in D1. It's a physical shield in front of you, again, assuming it's like how it was in Destiny 1. If the shield is depleted via damage, your class ability is depleted. And we have Knockout from Bottom Tree. Melee kills trigger health regeneration and amplify the Titan. Critically wounding a target or breaking their shield increases melee range and damage for a short time, and base melee is arc empowered while Knockout is active. Titans, a lot of this seems very PvP focused. It's a slight tone shift despite the fact that Arc Titans have been all about punching stuff this entire time. Touch of Thunder is totally usable for PvE, but without seeing any gameplay, trying to think of melee-based anything being good in endgame level content is very difficult, just based on how the game has been over the past couple of years. I'm trying to imagine a situation where you're going to want to be sprinting at a champion or something with a Juggernaut shield, trying to punch it and then hit it with Legend of Acreus or something now that it's buffed. Not to mention all of the very anti-melee modifiers that pop up from time to time. Juggernaut and Knockout seem very much like they are designed for PvP, and I'm somewhat confident in saying that Arc Titans are going to be an absolute menace. But what all of this ends up meaning for PvE, still up for debate. There's been some discussion of Heart of Inmost Light becoming a frontrunner exotic for Arc. It has gained a ton of popularity with the 3.0 subclasses and Stasis. I don't see why it couldn't apply here. The Touch of Thunder aspect does feel a bit out of left field though. Perhaps it's because Warlock has a solar aspect that improves grenades. This just doesn't feel like a Titan aspect. It feels like a Warlock thing, but maybe it's just Bungie throwing PvE Titans a bone or something. We'll see. Ultimately, a lot of Titan's success in endgame is going to depend on the numbers. What kind of damage resistance from Amplify sprinting? How effective is the Juggernaut shield? We need numbers to things, and we just don't have them yet. So it's really tough to come to a conclusion right now, but we can come to one in a few days. Before we get out of here, let's talk some fragments, sparks for Arc. I'll save the most notable one for last. Spark of Resistance, gain damage resistance when surrounded, percentage unknown. Spark of Momentum, Sliding over ammo reloads your weapon and gives a small amount of melee energy. Sliding over heavy ammo gives more energy. Not sure how frequently we're going to see this fragment being used at the moment, just on paper. Spark of Shock. Arc grenades jolt enemies. Remember, again, Amplify on its own does not directly lead to blind or jolt, so this might be one of the few ways to proc jolt until we know more. And finally, Spark of Beacons. When the player is amplified, arc special weapon kills create a blinding explosion. This is not a seasonal artifact mod. This is a fragment. So, you remember those grenade launchers mentioned earlier? Prepare for a resurgence, because these are going to be everywhere in PvE. It is self-fulfilling. Arc kills give you amplified, and then while you're amplified, those kills, with special weapons at least, now make blinding explosions. That is wild. That is just wild. Overall impressions are, well, let's just say I'm feeling like the community did when it first came to Solar 3.0's initial launch. I'm a bit skeptical just based on what we have on paper. Arc has fallen really far behind in popularity, and it's just tough imagining a world where it's not only good, but viable outside of like seasonal content. That's going to be the biggest factor for me personally. How viable is this stuff going to be in endgame, if at all? If it's not viable in endgame, is that okay? I would like it to be viable, but in my brain, I'm thinking that the only way to make it viable is to make us so powerful that even the hardest content in the game is no longer hard because you can just survive everything. Whether or not that's actually true, we'll find out over the next few weeks. When I say viable, I mean that it is something that you will actually want to pick for an endgame piece of content, and it is actually on the level of something that you bring to endgame nowadays. I'm skeptical of that happening. Do I think Arc will thrive in low and mid-level stuff and that'll be fun to use? Yes, I do. Am I undervaluing Amplified as a buff right now? Yes, I definitely think I am. But I'm reserving judgment otherwise because the community has been known to jump the gun on a lot of things, complaining about things that ended up being a non-factor or even ended up being good. So I don't want to say anything concrete. The only thing that I'll say is that just on paper, just reading it, I'm a little skeptical about endgame, but otherwise, I think Arc is going to be pretty fun. If you'd like some more discussion on Arc 3.0, check the link in the description. I did a 90-minute segment on my stream that you can check out, and it's going to be uploaded to my YouTube archive channel in the next day or so. You can check the description for that as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.